Hi family, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I'm OYOKO, but you can call me V. And this is another sacred discussion with Stacy. We are going to talk about mental health and well-being, since in the UK we had Mental Health Awareness Week. And since I'm always late with any new updates, I'm filming this video now. So we're going to have a conversation. Thank you for coming here. I know your journey was quite lengthy. So I thank you for
lengthy.
Yeah. But yeah, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah. Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm Stacy. I am a man of so many different trades, but I introduced myself today as one of the guests to OYOKO's presentation and talk about mental health, and hopefully we'll be able to cover some stuff. I don't know all the questions, so I'll try and answer on the spot.
It's fine, it's going to be a conversation.
It's going to be a conversation, so I'm being told it's a conversation, okay? So please don't you bloody judge me afterwards. But anyway, yeah, so nice to meet you all. My name is Stacy once again, and I'll pass you on back to our host.
I will have a peek as well when it comes to the questions, but okay. I think maybe if you come a little bit to the middle so that people can see you properly.
Is that
yeah,
right?
I think that's fine. Yeah. What does mental health mean to you? What does that constitute?
To me, I think mental health definitely focuses on the well-being of one. I think mental health for me is the well-being of one person and how they feel. That's my view on it. How they feel internally, how they feel around other people, and also how they deal with things that they're not comfortable with.
Okay.
That's my view on it. But of course, there's different explanation, and I'm sure we can go into depth in terms of the points that I've just mentioned.
I mean, if you want to elaborate on one of the points.
So how you feel internally is when you're dealing with anxiety, for example. Where does that come from? You know, how does that make you feel? You know, what is the impact when that overtakes you as a person? And you know, how does that impact your daily life, the people around you? That's one example.
Okay.
Like anxiety is one example. Fear could be another.
Yeah. And when it comes to your mental health, like, do you have a certain practice or habits? Like, how do you take care of your mental well-being?
To start with, I think you addressed a good point. You know, like, what is it? Because I wasn't raised and taught about mental health. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Same.
So it's talking to other people and really listening, because it's something that you think you know it all, but it's actually taking the time to listen to conversation about mental health, to actually ascertain and say to yourself, hold on a second, there's a point there, there's something valid that I need to be paying more attention to.
Yeah.
To answer your question, how do I deal with mental health? The first thing was how and when did I identify mental health as key or something that you need to learn. I think that was in my early 30s, because before then I didn't really thought that it was something that it was. I think mental health to me was more like people who always have issues have mental health, but no, it's everyone has some bits that they need to work on themselves. My view, again, this is just my opinion.
Do you know where that stems from? That assumption that you have to have some kind of illness to actually focus on, like, improving your mental well-being, emotional well-being.
But I think it stems from your upbringing. It stems from personal experiences. So, you know, there's points in your life where you've been very low and your self-esteem was really low. To answer the question, how do I deal with mental health? I think I practice different things. So I like writing. I like cooking, for example.
Nice.
So
nice.
It's that time. It's a little time for me to think about therapy. Like when I'm chopping vegetables, it's not just chopping vegetables, but I'm actually taking the time to actually relax. Talking to people about sharing stories about life is a good way of obviously overcoming and just refocusing and realizing what you've experienced isn't as bad, or other people experience the same thing, so you share common experiences, which could be a form of healing. So that's pretty much how I deal with it.
Okay. Well, when it comes to my upbringing, mental health was never a topic of discussion, and when it came up, it was more put aside as a thing that only happens to white people, or you have some kind of
Something wrong with you.
exactly, you're a troubled person, and therefore you need some assistance in improving your well-being mentally.
Yeah, no,
But
of course.
so I find it I guess now it's more popular.
Can I ask
So-
you, when did you discover that mental health is something that you need to deal with? Or not that you need to deal with, but when did you discover mental health it's a topic? Sorry. When did you discover that mental health is a topic that could have some connection with you, or something that you probably need to look into your own life?
I guess in maybe the last 2 years, 3 years, because it's been so publicly discussed, also quite mainstream on social media. People talk about it more often. They are more open, and it's become a more accepting conversation to have. But before that, I wasn't really concerned with mental health, mental well-being, emotional well-being. It was never a thing that occurred to me that I needed to focus on or had to maintain. And as I said earlier, my upbringing, like living with my parents, African household, it was always something about white people, or you have a problem, and don't even try and say it might be a mental thing or an emotional thing. Just deal with it. Just deal with the issue and not come with this nonsense.
I think also it's almost like mental health is a sign of weakness in I would say in some household. It's like, that's for weak people, therefore you're not weak, and therefore you need to be strong. And there's also a dismissal in conversations, as you're growing up. Going back to the point where you made, what was your upbringing like, and what is mental health, and how do you see it in the world? As you mentioned, it's publicly being raised because there is celebrities that's talking about it, for example, as everything always cascade down from someone higher up, or someone in a public eye, a public figure who raises those issues. But yes, you're right, that's
Do you discuss this now with your family or relatives, or even like friends? Do you actively have conversations about improving your mental health, or just their mental health, or just like the topic in itself in general?
I think with family it's difficult, because you're dealing with generational people who have been educated and have been brought up in a certain way. And when you reach a certain point in life, it's very much harder for you to sometimes accept that you could be educated by a younger generation. And it just depends again on household. I'm not going to go and specify and go into the details, but I'm sure everyone is clever enough to figure out what I'm trying to say. Sometimes your parents think they know better than you, and it depends. And some parents are open to those things. Some parents are open to, what did you learn in school today? I'm going to sit down and I'm going to listen, and I'm not going to interrupt you and try and teach you how to do things because you're teaching me something new. Other parents are dismissive. They're like, you must learn, and you don't really have this conversation. So
how was that with yours then? Were they open? Were they interested in these topics?
I think my upbringing, it has been in different places and different locations. So the focus was more on being good, and I, deliver on results in school. And because I wasn't misbehaving in school, so there wasn't that question where your parents pull you to the side and say what's going on and what's wrong. Yes, of course, at some point as a teen you go through those phases where they understand it's teenage life, and they're trying to liken some situations with them being teens and say, you think I wasn't a teenager back then. I think with family is different, but I think with people within the family that's similar age, and even I do address it with my dad. I do address it with my cousins who I'm close to, with friends. We do discuss it.
Okay.
But we don't discuss it as the word mental health. We discuss it as someone is not wanting to talk and not wanting to be around people. Someone is having anxiety. Okay. And we discuss things that you can do. Let's do.
More like identifying a problem and finding a solution to
it's identifying the problem and reboosting someone's energy, highlighting what they're good at. Because when you're dealing with mental health, depending on what stage or how you're feeling, it could be depression. Sometimes it's borderline depression, and the word depression, okay, let's not over exaggerate. It does happen to everyone. When you go to bed, you're the only one that know how deep the problem is, and the holes you haven't told other people of the problem or situation you're going through. So I think with friends is boosting energy and telling them, look, yes, you're going through this, how can I assist? Let's do this, listen to this song, or read this book, to just trying to see if you can find clues or things that would boost your energy, and let's get out of the house and talk about it. We do have the conversation of what the topic is, what they're dealing with, but it's not, oh, now I'm your therapist. It's not like that. It's explain what you're going through and why you think you're going through that, and then let's have discussion and bring happiness into your life as we're talking, to not allow you to feel depressed.
Okay.
Or,
do you think as a black man that you're allowed to be vulnerable, and especially now that you've expressed that you do have conversations with relatives, with friends, that you tend to hear each other out and then see how you can contribute, so it's really like solution driven? What about just having a conversation about feelings, emotions, or just thoughts that are running through your mind, and not having a clear call to action, like you have to do this, like just expressing that and feeling like you are in a space, or there are spaces for men, in particular black men, to be vulnerable? I mean, I know this is a humongous question.
As I'm grabbing the mic, please sit down and do not attack what I'm going to say next. No, I'm only kidding.
Hilarious.
First thing, as a black man, no. As a black man, you're not raised to be feeling vulnerable. And there are reasons for that. And I'm not going to go into the reasons, but there are reasons for that. You're brought up to be tough. You have to be strong.
Is that specific to black men, or is that just men in general?
Well, probably specific to men in general, but as a black man, the pressure out there is going to be heavier than other people, because you are more or less the face of the family. There's a stigma behind black families, and the stigma and things that's shown is black men don't look after their children, as an example, and that's not true. It's not true. But
it's not true that black men don't.
We can't generalize.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, well.
I'm not.
The media often does.
The media will generalize that.
Yeah.
So as a black man, you have so much responsibility. You can't fail as a black man. When you do, you can't cry. You can't cry in public. and it's nothing. And yes, you can cry in public. That's the answer, because we all have emotions.
Yeah.
You know, we all have emotion. But as a black man, with some of my friends, I'll talk about my black friends first. Mel, you know, you're just told you have to be tough as nail. Like, you can't. Nothing can break you.
And do you think, no, actually, yeah, I want to ask, where does that mentality come from? Do you think that is a thing that is perpetuated amongst men doing that to other men? Or is it like women or just, yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be women specifically, but do you feel like it's men amongst each other that put pressure on, you know, other men? Or is it really women expecting that from men, that they are supposed to be tough and they are not allowed to cry and to express their emotions and all of these other things? Who is like keeping this?
You can grab the mic and I'll answer it. There's two things. I think men, in general, amongst your friends, you would expect them to be strong. So I'm not saying this is all the time, but as men, you push your friend to be just, you know, like, it's tough. You have to be, you're expected to be that man, that solid, strong man. It's a man's world. So
when you say strong is not synonymous to keeping everything in, building up, keeping emotions, not expressing yourself.
Well, as men, I mean, I've learned now I'm okay to express my feelings towards some of my closest male friends.
Yeah.
But it's not something, it's because I know it's something that I can talk to some men about. But as men, you don't express your feelings to other men. That's one thing.
Okay.
The second point that's me, from what I've experienced, and I'm not saying this is to all.
Yeah.
So communication, it goes back to that part of communication. The second point where you say is, are women expecting men to be strong as well? And it goes both ways, because yes, women expect to be with a strong man. That's not all women, but it's just generally how I was brought up to believe that that's the case.
Yeah.
The second point is, when you have a macho man who doesn't communicate, there's a second frustration, because now you have someone who, in a physique and physical, is tough as nail. But then in the emotional part, there's an issue. And without training to how to communicate and express that vulnerability, because we're talking about men's vulnerability, without that being expressed and being trained and communicated to a boy and allowing himself to express himself, depending on background, cultural situation, that continue to perpetuate as you don't need to express yourself. That is, you not that you don't need, but you just don't express yourself in terms of how you feel. And when you become a man now,
yeah,
you've carried 20 odd years of not vocalizing how you feel internally. Communication with someone who expects you to communicate, which could be another man, it could be a female, whatever, you may have not developed that. So on one hand, you are strong. On another hand, emotional intelligence, you may not develop that, and that could be impactful to you and to other people around you.
Yeah. Okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, I think so.
You sure?
Because you did share from a woman's perspective, and then from a man's perspective. I'm only talking about experiences and people that I know. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But again, I'm saying this, and I'm not saying I communicate how I feel emotionally with females all the time. So just to let you know, I'm not putting myself out there as a man who does that, because I'm also learning. It's not something that was taught to me.
So what will be the solution then, since we all have a problem?
Well,
Since we all have a problem.
well,
What are the steps, like at least like the first step? The first step, because what I've noticed, especially with online, like social media platforms, and maybe a bit of mainstream media, but mostly social media platforms, where men just start a podcast and then they start ranting and blame every other woman that they had a some kind of encounter with and that didn't go well, and now they are the problem. You know,
like the women are the problem.
Women are the problem.
Yeah.
They
don't take account. They don't
no
want
accountability,
no
nothing.
accountability and responsibility.
I mean, I don't, because I see those things. I watch a few videos and then I'm like, I click off, because this is like a waste of my time. I don't want to be, you know, consuming my mind with
exactly.
Because they clearly are inept emotionally. You know, so for you to be projecting and blaming everyone else but yourself, like the common denominator is that you were in this situation, you know. So if that keeps happening, then maybe you are also taking part and you are part of the problem. But I don't hear no one saying that, so I'm like, okay, I'm just clicking off and mind my business, you know. I just focus on me and the people that I have a personal relationship with. But yeah.
What do I think of those men who don't take accountability? Just I'll let you.
No, you go. No, because you weren't finished yet. You were going to say something else. Well, I mean, not necessarily. You don't have to like give your opinion on like what these like men do on their podcasts and like ranting and stuff. It's more like, what will be a first step towards healing and making sure that people are actively taking charge of their mental health and mental well-being, instead of looking at other people and how they are doing it wrong because they never do anything wrong.
I think my first step will be identifying traumas you've experienced as a child.
Yeah, I was gonna go there too.
I think that would be my first step, because you come to Earth, you're a child, and within the first, something like the first 8 to 10 years of your life, it's the foundation of who you kind of going to be. It's not set in stone that yes, you're going to be that person, but it's like those basic foundation that it's the teaching that you're learning, the habits that you pick up, within those years. And yes, you can still change. We are adaptable as human beings. We are adaptable. We are very adaptable, and unfortunately some people choose not to be adaptable, and there's an issue. As a first step, that would be the first thing that I would do: go back into the past and look at traumatic events and why did that occur, and try to either make peace with the people or the issues, and try to deal with it, whether it's writing how you felt at the time, reading it out loud to someone, a loved one, a stranger, and burning that letter or communicating that. That's something that just removes a lot of weight and unanswered question.
Yeah, well, you're asking people to be courageous and to be I guess emotionally strong to face your demons, I guess.
Of course.
So what if you are unable to do that? Like, that's hard. That's not an easy job. And I guess if you're not actively invested in trying to, be introspective and see how you can become a better version of yourself, then this is almost an impossible task.
I know.
If that's the first step, then I don't know what the second, third, fourth, fifth was going to be.
Hold on. That was one of the steps. Okay, that's not.
Which one was that? Was that 10?
No. That's probably one of the steps. As in, I would say childhood is something that you can look into. Also, self-reflection. Get people. There's a thing about learning how to receive feedbacks and learn about yourself. How do people see you as a person? Do you see what I mean? And
I want to know that about me.
No, but I'm just saying, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Getting feedback. You can get anonymous. You can ask 10 questions about those men that like to rant about their exes who have been doing stuff to them and they don't want to take accountability. Ask 10 females what do they think about the same things that you want to rant about or complain about, that someone else did to you, and see what the responses are, and then do exactly the same thing with 10 male friends or strangers and see what the response is. Because if you do it with people that know you too well, they may be kind. You have to do it with people that just briefly met you and seen you a few times and, you know, able to give you feedback of what their first impression was. Because if a stranger and your best friend is saying the same thing, clearly they could be, and they don't know each other, it's something that you could learn from.
Yeah.
That's another thing, you know, that you can do. And accept critical feedback is hard, you know, because
That's really a skill. You need to actually learn how to take on criticism and knowing how to criticize. Because what I've noticed when people, I mean, this is more like in a personal setting when you're like with like friends and you're, you know, having banter. Sometimes people just jab you, and then obviously depending on the foundation of your friendship with this person, you can decide if this is just a joke around and they know that they can take a hit, or
whether there's something underneath it.
Exactly. If it's like some malicious intent, then, you know, you need to start observing. Where was I going with this? I had a clear thing in my mind and now it's gone.
No, well, because I basically said about getting feedback on yourself to be able to understand.
Oh yeah. Well, the second thing was knowing how to criticize, and obviously when it comes to being like in school, there's a different way, or like there are, I guess, steps or protocols on this is how you give feedback, whether this is a presentation or you know, they have steps like these are the things that you need to look out for. But in a personal setting, you need to develop that yourself. Like, how do you criticize someone that you love without them taking it, you know, to heart? And people usually, at least I've noticed in like old friendships, it became more about the person rather than the behavior.
It's rather than actually focusing on what the issue was.
Exactly,
it became, I disagree with you, or I think you're that thing, rather than saying this situation happens, you behave this way, and I think we could have resolved it this way. But
not even always like providing a solution, more like discussing or actually pinpointing this is what factually happened, and then letting them decide what they want to do with it. And then you see or someone's true colors, or how valuable the relationship that you have with this person really is. Because if they feel like, oh, it doesn't matter, you know, I know you for maybe a couple of years, our friendship is not that doesn't mean much to me, then you know how people move, and then you can cut your losses in a way.
But like, you know, so I think there's self-discovery in what you just said, isn't it? I think people need to discover who they are, like, you know, understanding who they are. You know, what makes you angry as a person, what makes you sad, what makes you happy, what makes you vulnerable, why do you feel that way, and how do you handle all of those emotions and feelings? How do you handle them? Knowing that about yourself and being true to yourself, because there's people that's in denial. You have people who are in denial, and then what does that do? That stems and create I would say monster behavior is not really the word that I want to use, but it's, I'm always right, you're always wrong, and it goes back to accountability. It goes back to giving feedback to others. It goes back to being told or taught as a young person, if you're feeling a certain way, you should be allowed to express yourself. But if you haven't had all those teachings, if you don't know what makes you angry, if you don't know what makes you happy, if you don't know how to deal with those things, like, I know when I'm feeling angry, and I deal with, and I just get away from people.
Yeah.
because I know my anger shouldn't affect how someone's happiness is. I'm dealing with something, so I'm gonna stay away from people and understand why I'm feeling this way.
Yeah.
It's not a great way of dealing with it, some people would say.
Yeah.
But for me, like, there's something wrong. So what is wrong with me? Just stay away from people at this moment in time and understand why you're feeling that way.
When what happens after, when you finally found out that this is the issue, do you go back to the person that triggered you, or like what's the next step?
I think it depends, you know. I think as an adult, going back, you said, you know, when you was talking about people who jab and who would, if you're a teenager, do you know about mental health?
Not really. Maybe now. Yeah.
But you know, for people who are a certain age, we're not going to give away our ages, because I know some of you are like, how old no, I'm joking, but I don't mind anyway. But for people who are a certain age, if you are, you know, you've worked in a workplace, so you've been given feedback.
Yeah.
You know, you've had to apply for a job, you know, so you had to have some sort of skills and be a team player, because, you know, when you go for a job, most jobs expect you to be a team player. If you say, no, I'm independent, I don't like to work with people, the chances of them hiring you, unless if you're doing coding or you're doing a job where it's only you in the room,
True.
Yeah, they will hire you. But if you don't have some of those skills, they're going to be like, we're not sure, he's not really a team player, so how are we going to fit him in a team, and when we have tasks to do and we need to distribute the workload? So you do get feedback, you know, you do get appraisal in some places. You know, the feedback is like going to school. You've done 6-7 months of learning, and your test, when you do your exam, that's the feedback on what you've been learning.
Yeah.
If you haven't been learning and your exams results are not reflecting that you've actually put 100% in your learning throughout the whole academic year, and you've gone to your exams and you don't get the grades, you could say, okay, fine, it was a bad day, but that's a feedback on it's a feedback that you get on an annual basis throughout education. It's not the same, of course. It's judging on performance, and performance doesn't mean you're smart because you got top grades, and it means you're not clever enough because you didn't get the grades. Anything could have happened. You could have woken up on a stress day, something could have happened to you emotionally, family stuff, where your concentration for that exam just went away. So we are somehow, we reflect on situations that we go through. To go back in terms of dealing with those things and how you're able to bring yourself into dealing with it, and how to deal with people who are giving you hard times, it's something that we don't necessarily know. You don't necessarily know yourself. You have to know yourself somehow. And how do you know yourself? Self-reflection, yes, you do. But when do you get to that stage of wanting to self-reflect on yourself? Do you do self-reflection whilst you're happy, or do you do self-reflection when something is going bad and someone's giving you feedback, or are you taught self-reflection?
If I was taught self-reflection, I guess
Can I ask, when do you self-reflect?
I guess I self-reflect usually in the evening, like after a long day. So usually when the day is almost ending, so in the evening, or after a certain event or situation that I felt like brought up certain emotions, then I reflect as well. And I like to journal, so that's a way for me to self-reflect. And I guess after having difficult conversations with people, they don't have to be a friend or anything like that, but more like if it was like a thought-provocative conversation, or during conversations with people after, I also reflect and think about what they said, and where I stood with my opinion and stuff as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good. I mean, it's good. I don't know whether I self-reflect every day. That I can say.
I mean, I try to do every day with the journaling and stuff, but
Yeah.
sometimes I just miss a couple of days, so I don't do it, and then.
But you know, you
do.
mentioned a good point in terms of dealing with the people who upset you, and I think sometimes it's difficult also because the person that you're dealing with needs to be able to understand why you're having a conversation.
Yeah.
If they don't understand, and if they don't have that emotional intelligence, sometimes it can be frustrating and a waste of time.
Yeah, but then I give, in that case, I give them instructions.
How can you give someone like, yo, we had a problem, I'm gonna give you instructions, yeah,
I mean,
how to deal with me or how to deal with this situation. I'm gonna email it to you, and we're having a debate.
It's not like that.
No, I'm joking.
Well, like for instance, this morning I had some built up frustration. I had a call with someone, and right before, maybe like 10 minutes before the call, he said that he needed to leave like after a certain time when we had planned to do like an hour or maybe longer. And then when I mentioned it, like, why didn't, like on the call itself, when I mentioned, why didn't you say this earlier? I could have done a different time or a different date. Did you know about this other appointment? And he said yes. I'm like, so why didn't you say this? And then he said something about his entire schedule was so very fully booked and blah blah blah. And then I just said that I had so much build up frustration that I had to mention all of it before we could continue, because I don't want it to like come I don't want it to come out in other ways, and then it becomes like a personal thing. So I mentioned this, and then he cuts me off and says, and this is more like a work relationship. I don't have like a personal connection with this person. And he said, oh yeah, I have so many things happening, so many things that I need to cater or blah blah. I'm like, I just want you to listen and to acknowledge my emotions. That's why I'm asking. And he kept interrupting me, saying things like, oh, but I'm busy, just making it about him, like I'm busy, and I basically justifying not listening to me and why I'm upset. So I kept saying that because he said yes. I was like, yes, it's not enough. I don't want you to say yes. I want you to acknowledge my frustration and my emotion, because otherwise I won't be able to continue. And then eventually at the end of the call, he apologized, and he's like, he understood why we had a rough start, and because this is not a one-time thing, he has done this repeatedly. That I'm like, so he knew how he contributed to this built-up frustration. So I basically that was my way of instructing him, because he was giving me responses that were triggering me. I was like, I'm getting even more aggravated now, so just don't say yes. And he's like, what do you want me to do? I was like, I want you to acknowledge. That's what I want you to do. Acknowledge my emotions. Acknowledge how frustrated I am. That's what I want you to do. And then we can continue with the call. And then he acknowledged. And now, I feel like I feel lighter now, because I feel like he's taking my time seriously. He's taking my concerns seriously. And he didn't know how to deal with that. So I told him. I was like, do this. Because otherwise this woman is going to explode.
I mean, and that's good. And I think...
I guess not everyone is able to deal with instructions. Obviously, I'm not instructing everyone like how to deal with my emotional self. That's not what I'm saying.
But it's obviously good to obviously address what you did. Is you addressed something that's triggering you to behave in a certain way, and it's not good for the work relationship that you have, because it sometimes could feel personal.
Yeah, exactly.
So you are, and I'm sure I've been that guy before, so I was learning and listening to your frustration just now, because I'm sure I've been that person before that you had to deal with, and I'm sure I said yes before. And
because you probably don't know, but the reason I did not want to accept yes was because it sounded dismissive.
Okay.
So that
But
just
did you shout?
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Because there's
I mean, I raised my voice a tiny bit, but that was because he kept interrupting me. Because he wanted to get on because of obviously time. Time was of the essence. But I'm like, even if we have 20 minutes or 5 minutes left, we're not going to move past whatever I have here, because otherwise...
Yeah, because you still have this thing that you need to get out
exactly.
get off your chest. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, saying yes, it's sometimes, yeah, you're right, it's dismissive. I think raising, I don't know, I can't stand when women raise their voice at me.
Oh, really?
I just can't. I'm 100.
What was raising? What does that mean? As in, like, do you mean shouting at you?
It's raising their voice because it triggers me to behave in a certain way, and it just puts me on guard.
So what do you do when they do
I just sit down and I just listen, and I could listen and also be very dismissive, which can be annoying.
And this is only with women? Or with anyone?
No, it's
so it doesn't have to be gendered, you know?
No, it is not gendered, but I think as men sometimes I don't know whether it's
power thing, power play.
It's not, but it's almost like if they're gonna raise their voice, it's almost like, you know, you're taking it to the level beyond the conversation, because it becomes of who has the biggest chest and who has the biggest slap and biggest hand. It's a way of approaching it. I think sometimes men sometimes how they talk to each other, they can be rude, but the voice thing, because remember the voice, something that goes right in here, and just goes right in, and you're like, what the hell just happened? Do you see what I mean? And that can put you on guard. For me, it puts me on guard. I don't know why. I should see a therapist. I'm sure I should see a therapist on that.
We're displaying ourselves online.
But you know, but I'm sure it puts me on guard, and I don't know why. And I don't really have that. I probably did, but I think it's more when when you're talking to another guy, and I'm sure it's probably different. There's this look, and there's this aura that you can see about someone else. So if you're going to talk to him in a certain way, expect that I don't know, I'm just saying, like, the aura, the look that someone is giving you is careful of how you're going to speak to me and how you're going to deal with me. Anyway,
so you have the same energy for anyone? Doesn't matter if it's a guy or...
Well, I'm just...
someone else.
I'm just saying, when someone raise their voice and talks in a threatening, because raising your voice, there's a difference between raising your voice out of frustration, and there's a difference between raising your voice starting a conversation. Okay. If you're in a discussion and you're a heated argument, someone will raise their voice. It's normal. But if someone raised their voice like straight as starting a conversation, that's what triggers me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but maybe
because you could be having the best time of your life, and someone just go like, "Hey," but that sort of where you're like, "Hold on, where did that come from?" And you have to calm yourself down, because it's just a shock, because you're like, do you see what I mean? This is the example, by the way. This is the example I'm giving. Okay, so yes, you can raise your voice when we're talking,
but it's different though, because I think with me, if someone raises their voice, it's really the I guess maybe the tonality, instead of volume.
No, but that's what I'm saying. There's the tone and how someone talks to you.
But
it's not going to be, someone is not going to talk to you like, it's the way they're going to talk to you sometimes comes with a volume and a tonality.
So if someone is having a conversation with you, and instead of raising their voice, they just still maintain the same tone, but they are still attacking you, you have a slightly different, less triggered than someone that would raise the voice and then say the same thing?
Yeah, of course. Because when someone raises their voice, it's like fight. It's that feeling. You know, you can either fight or you can run.
Yeah, but because you said earlier that there are like differences, like someone raising their voice out of frustration and someone raising their voice out of wanting to stir something up.
Yeah.
So with the frustrated person,
It's normal. Sorry,
Yeah.
so let you finish what you're gonna say. With
No,
the
no.
person with person raising their voice out of frustration,
yeah,
it's a build up. So it's gonna come out.
but then you won't act as
No. I won't act like that, because it's obviously, you can sense when someone is when you're in a heated conversation with someone,
Yeah,
there's going to be a point where someone's going to have it's not going to be able to handle talking at the same tone anymore, or want to be heard.
Yeah.
So therefore they would, do you see what I mean? But there's a difference when someone comes and does like, hey, I said obviously hey, but that's not the way they would start the conversation.
Yeah.
It would be raised voice. But going back to where we were in terms of explaining and listening to people, there's something that we've discovered. Listening is a key thing.
it's also a skill, and a lot of people don't know how to listen. And
So-
I've been there as well.
So how do we raise this skill in terms of listening? Where does it start from?
I don't know. I don't have the answers.
No.
I don't have
say
that.
what you think. You know, if you was your younger self right now, compare your younger self to now, and where would you have liked to learn the listening skill? Because as children, you don't really, you can't concentrate for that long. So there's a point where
I guess in school.
okay,
I think,
secondary school.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and obviously also high school. Or is that secondary school? Yeah.
Secondary school here.
Okay, then the high school, secondary school, and college.
Okay, so it should be added into the curriculum.
Yeah, just adding it to the curriculum, because it's a skill. It's a skill
true.
that you
No, it's
should
true.
master. That you will, you know,
You
it's
become rich. Listen,
it's
if
a
you listen,
lifetime. Yeah, it's something
you-
that will benefit you during your entire lifetime. So knowing how to listen, knowing how to
yeah.
conversate with people, like being a conversationalist, is something that we should be.
Yeah, no, we
You
should.
should be conversationalist.
There's,
or-
yeah, no,
like,
there's.
it's good to have communication skills that you can master and understand people and listen.
Observe and
properly.
listen that are something, because you listen, you get the job done.
Yeah,
And listen, the person came with the problem, and all you did was just taking notes of all their problems, and you've been listening while someone else is trying to throw a joke in. You're figuring out the solutions
yeah.
to the problem. So yeah, listening is a great skill, and you're right.
And we could avoid so many arguments and, like, you know, things like friendships that break up, or family issues, you know, because people don't want to listen or don't know how to listen or how to communicate properly. It's always a difficult thing to navigate.
Do you
Especially when the emotions are involved, because everything is so tense and heightened. Like,
when emotions are involved with someone, and you're not.
we're not talking about mental health anymore, by the way.
No. We're gonna go.
Okay.
We'll go back to mental health.
Yeah.
Because it's all part of mental health.
Sure,
It's discussions.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it goes back to mental health in terms of when you're emotionally not feeling well about a situation with someone. It seems like you address it straight away. You don't wait to.
Well, yeah, no, I don't like to wait. And when I do wait, but that's sometimes the thing, maybe I should work on that, but I want them to take initiative, and I don't want to be the person that always steps forward and says, this is a problem for me. I want them to acknowledge, come to their own senses, and you know, do that introspective work, and then step forward and say, okay, I feel like maybe I've done something wrong as well, and they say that, but they also display and express, this is my part and I apologize for that, or something else. Maybe there won't be an apology, but then I would respect that too.
But do you need an apology?
Not always, but it really depends what the relationship is and how much I value the relationship.
Okay.
Because otherwise I'm like, yeah, your apology doesn't mean anything to me.
So, but just what we've discussed is mental health related. Yes or no?
Yes, it does. Yeah, actually.
Because it covers going back to trauma, what you just said,
Trauma, yeah, trauma.
that's something that's unsolved. It's something that's pending. It's weight that you're carrying.
Yeah.
It's something that you reflect as an experience. Like I had an experience with one or two individuals who.
Was this recent?
No. Just throughout life. If the person that had an issue was called, let's just say, I'm just going to say a random name. So I'm going to say a name.
Shakalala.
No, I'm going to say something like Gwendolyn.
Gwendolyn. I like Gwendolyn.
Okay, I have Gwen. This is not you. Okay, this is another Gwen.
I like
imaginary Gwen. But Gwendolyn did something to X. X will be like, if the name Gwendolyn pops up, it triggers.
Okay, yeah, I see what
it triggers something, and no matter how you're like, yo, calm down, you have people who experience something, and every time they see a red bus, that's it.
Yeah.
And you're like, this red bus is not the same red bus that hit you. It's a different red bus.
Yeah.
We're in a different country.
That's a trauma response.
No, but that's a trauma response.
Yeah.
But it's, it's something that we, going back to what you were saying, is that hasn't been dealt with.
Yeah. So how do people deal with it then?
You have to see a therapist.
If you don't have money, we know therapy is expensive.
I know it's very expensive, but
you need to be in a privileged position to even be able to afford that.
Well, therapy is not always going to see someone. Therapy could be talking. Therapy could being in a room with people that care about you and express how you feel.
But they don't have any medical professional training or credentials. You need someone that can actually help you, and not people where you can emotionally dump your stuff on.
But sometimes, who gives children their first? Pardon me. I was going to say, who gives children their first part of wisdom?
Yeah. Well, yeah, family, friends, people close to them. But still, if there are issues there, if you have some kind of unresolved issues, trauma, whatever.
Yeah, no, of course.
To go to someone that's trained to deal with this.
It is true. Obviously, you need it's financially not viable for everyone because it requires money. But I think they're going back to writing, dealing with what you dealt with.
Yeah.
When you're writing it, you're taking it from inside you, you're putting on paper. The amount of weight you remove, you probably don't see it because you see ink. But that ink, that few lines could be 5 kilos.
Yeah.
That's just off your body, but it's dealing with it. I have a trauma. I have a trauma where I need to see a therapist.
As of now, like you're still dealing with it.
As of now, like I have a trauma. I need to see a therapist, and I've spoken to friends about it. To my closest friend, because I can't tell everyone in case you're trying to use that. No, I'd rather not tell. It's nothing bad, but it's just something that I've dealt with for a long time.
No, not the actual issue, but why can you not tell other people besides your closest friends that you want therapy?
I was joking around.
I said, okay.
Yeah. No. But I have. I don't want to. Some people know about it, so I'm not going to go into details.
Okay.
It's nothing bad. It's just something that's tormented me and prevented me from doing something that I was good at. What I thought I was going to be good at, actually.
Okay.
And so,
I don't want you to expose yourself.
No, I don't want
to put your stuff out there. I'm
not exposing myself.
Yeah,
no. But so even for me, just by, and I challenge myself.
Yeah.
And I've done that in the last 6 years, where I'm challenging that thing that's blocking me.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what my trauma is?
I don't know. No, I don't know.
I'll tell you off camera.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I'll tell you off camera.
Cool.
And
only if you want to, because obviously I don't want people to feel like they're obligated to share their demons.
It's not a demon. Okay.
They're skeletons.
It's just trauma that you experience, and it impacts you. It impacts. There's a bit that's missing in some of the things that I want to do, and it's one of those things that's just impacting me. So I need to deal with it and just challenge it. So
when did you sorry to interrupt
Yeah.
you, when did you see how the trauma that you're dealing with started to impact the relationships that you have with
It's
your
actually
friends and family?
it's not a relationship with, for this specific trauma, it's not a relationship with friends and family. It's something with me. So
Oh no, I mean like how that impacted your
Oh.
relationships with friends and family or whoever.
um
When did you started to notice that? Oh, it's seeping
but
through.
there's
this,
just certain things that I don't want to do.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Where I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. They say, why? I'm like, it's not for me.
That's
And-
why you say it's not
yeah,
for
yeah.
me.
I'll just say it's not for me. But it's a
Okay.
trauma that, I'm not in a way that I'm dismissing it when they bring it up. But other trauma, I've got, we all deal with something that I'm terrible at dealing with is communication and how I feel. Because when I'm angry, I can't communicate.
As in your emotions cannot communicate your emotions.
I'm not in the right frame of mind to communicate.
Oh yeah, because you said that you walk away, right?
And people say
that.
that's like a weakness, and I'm like, take it as a weakness if you
I
want,
think
but
so,
I just
actually.
know I'm not in the right frame of mind to communicate, because
fair.
anger triggers negativity, and sometimes you're dealing with a situation, like you said, the example of, rather than, it's a situation that happened, and it's not about trying to find solution, this is what happened, and X did this decision, Y did this, Z did this, and all we wanted to do was to move the car from there to there, and you decided no, it's too late. Why you're trying to, like, where it's like, if I don't move the car, I'm gonna get a parking fine, and it's like, you can do it in the morning. Person woke up too late, they forgot, and now you have the car is towed. I'm just giving an example. That didn't happen to me, but you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you're going back to, you're having to deal with this because it's something that you have to deal with. So when I'm angry, I know my emotion is not right.
Fair. That's good.
So-
that you're that self-aware that you have.
I'm
to
aware,
distance
so I'm
yourself.
like, but
I'm aware.
no, I am
Okay,
aware.
we're humans.
No. But it goes back, but then you see what's interesting, it goes back to the situation that you were describing earlier,
Yeah.
where you have to tell someone how you're feeling,
Yeah.
and I can be that person.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean when I was saying
yeah.
I have been that person that you had to tell how you felt?
Yeah.
Do you see
And
what
how did you receive the
the
emotion or the message at the time of that person telling you
when
the issue? Did you
I
need
try-
to be instructed as well?
Well, no, I don't need to be instructed, but it clicks because I even when I'm angry, I still keep my senses. So some people get angry and they smash things. I don't do that.
Okay.
I'm not someone who's going to say hurtful things. I don't do that.
Okay.
So when I'm angry, it's all about calming myself down so I can deal with whatever we need to discuss. But I will not deal with it if the other person is not taking accountability to also be grown up to discuss it.
Okay.
I mean by that is, okay, we have a situation that hasn't been resolved, but we want to pretend that it's resolved.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean.
And people go back to their whole routine of how they used to be and still redo the same thing, but just avoiding mentioning that like it's resolved.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Oh,
I've
it's
been there too. As in, I've with people had that experience.
we
as
are,
well.
we are, and it's normal. I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm imperfect. I'm not a perfect person. But
Yeah.
anyways, let's carry on. If you
I guess what I wanted to also discuss was negative thoughts and how you deal with that. How do you counteract the negativity that might pop up in your mind?
music, listen to a lot of music.
Would you say that is more a distraction?
Yes and no. Yes and no. No, in the sense that what's interesting, and people are gonna laugh, when I'm angry, I listen to gangster rap,
Okay.
and it does the reverse.
Who are you listening to?
I listen to Ice Cube. Ice Cube is the
Oh, really?
man. Yeah. It does the reverse because it actually makes me realize that
So he's spewing for you.
It's almost making me calm down. See, if I'm angry and I'm listening to something that's positive, it's not going to work. It's just going to make me more angry because that's not what I want to listen to. I want to listen to something that's going to shake it off, but it needs to be someone that's shouting and that can be on my level. So that's very strange. I know it's different, but I do that.
Nice.
But yes, you're right. Is it a distraction? It could also be a distraction because it shouldn't be my solution. So what happened if there's no Ice Cube? What happened if I haven't got?
You have other rappers. Other gangster rappers.
I start with Ice Cube first. Ice Cube, you are in my But anyways, no, I start with.
What else do you listen to besides Ice Cube?
When I'm angry.
Yeah.
Gosh, there's so many. I'm gonna try and think. I like.
3 6 Mafia. Is that gangster?
They do more. No, they're more country. I wouldn't say country music.
Country.
But
they do country.
But you have to you have to remember country music.
Yeah.
It's in hip hop. There's a sound. It's more of the sound in a hip hop term.
Okay.
It's southern. Southern is what I mean. Southern rap hip hop.
Okay.
Which is more laid back, whereas West Coast is very much boom, boom, boom. You see? So
I love that. I love it.
No, it is.
Demo.
Yeah, it's boom, like
boom, boom.
So there's Tupac.
Yeah.
Tupac vocalizes a lot of emotions, and also he questions, because you have the emotion that he gives.
Yeah.
But then also you have that he questions, and Tupac is a Gemini, right?
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Tupac is a Gemini.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Tupac and Ice Cube were born one day apart.
Oh.
Yes.
You know more than me then.
Yeah. So they are both Gemini. My dad is a Gemini. My mom is a Taurian. So I'm right.
Oh.
I'm smack in the middle. So.
What was yours then?
I'm a Taurian as well.
Oh, okay.
So and it's understanding who I am. I don't know about horoscope and moons and stars and crystals, and I do respect those that do. But I do know the things that triggers me.
Okay.
So, did I answer your question?
Yeah, because you said music, but it's not only a distraction. It's also a tool to help you alleviate any built-up anger and pain. I guess for me, what would be... it depends what kind of thoughts. Because I've had, thoughts of, or like feelings of restlessness, and then thoughts of more like a bordering existential crisis, and then I start listening to interviews of artists that I really like, and their creative process, where they stand in life and all that stuff, and that gives me perspective, but also it gives me solace, because they are sharing their own experience, and they don't portray themselves as perfect. They have their struggles too. So that's comforting to me. Music as well, but I guess maybe music in my case is more a distraction, more like a tool to escape, that I use to escape. But
I would say music and writing. Those are the two things that I do. Because when I get that feeling, I start writing and I listen to music. So those are two of the things that I do.
Yeah. Okay, nice. I guess same as in like expressing creativity. I don't know if you know your attachment style, or if you've heard about the attachment theory. There are like 4 main types.
Well, secure, you have secure, one is secure.
Yeah, and then disorganized.
Disorganized and almost like
avoidance.
Is disorganized and avoidance together? I think so. Or no?
I think you have fearful avoidant, or fearful disorganized, and then you had I forgot the other ones.
I think there's 4.
I did a whole video on this. I forgot everything.
But I secure, because definitely independent, how I'm feeling, and I'm confident in my own abilities. When you're talking about attachment to parents, I think I was detached from my parents, and that's not when I mean by that,
Well, that's also a certain attachment
yeah,
style.
yeah,
I just don't know which one it is, like
yeah.
avoidant
So
or fearful or disorganized or whatever.
possibly, and but because I think I flex between two. I flex between two. One is I've definitely flexed with the avoidance because it's something that I tend to do. I'm very dismissive. When I don't like something, I dismiss. It's like, nope, it's not happening today. And that's one of my weakness. Yes, we all have weaknesses. That's one of my weakness. I know I need to work on it. But at the same time, being independent, being confident, being able to do things in a way, being helpful to others, being able to still be connected to others, because there's that as well, which I think puts me in the secure box. But I do tap with other elements and other stuff from the other three. I think probably the other two. I think I would probably consider myself as more secure.
Okay. Well, you should do a test.
Oh,
There
yeah,
are
that's
tests
true.
there,
That's
so
true.
you can try it. I think mine was secure. So, but yeah, it's always good to revisit
No,
a
of
test
course.
and then,
Of course. I'll probably need to do one.
yeah.
No, that's
Okay.
fine.
Well, I guess since it's getting dark as well, I guess we have to wrap up. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Obviously, let us know what you think, what resonated with you. I guess I don't really have any tips or stuff, but I don't feel like I should be in a position to like advise people because I do not have like from a professional standpoint, like we are both not equipped to give anyone advice. This is based on our own experiences, you know. So
I think
yeah.
for me, yeah, definitely agree with you. I think for me, it's having the conversation and recognizing pattern and
Yes, patterns.
recognizing pattern,
So
self
true.
identifying the things that makes you happy, fearful, creates anxiety, vulnerable. Those are key things. And yes, you can't share everything with all your friends. People are like, I tell my friend, no. There are people who are there that you can share things with because they understand it. And there are people who don't. And the moment you stop talking to someone, they're like, oh, you're telling my business to everybody. Be careful, you know. There are people, sometimes you get advice from strangers. I had people randomly saying things to me when I'm like, wow, like I didn't expect that. Do you see what I mean? So it's journaling is a good example as well, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Writing your emotions and how you feel, because you can revisit that.
Yeah.
You know, you can revisit, this is how that happened. So
And it shows growth as well. When you couple of years later,
Yeah.
if you want to reflect, you can see how you've grown emotionally or just like mentally, where you stand, what your perspective is. If you were in a bad place,
yeah,
and now you're in a better place, then you see the growth in there. You know, the process. It's all process anyway. We're constantly learning, and you will never be in a perfect position or in a perfect state of mind to deal with people. And if you want to be alone, then that's fine too. I guess you just need to make sure that you're not like always alone and that you drown in solitude or you know, and become a hermit and want to distance yourself, because I guess maybe when it comes to that, maybe you know, seek help or something. Like
No,
you
but-
you don't
Yeah,
you still
yeah,
want to have contact with people, but yeah, knowing your boundaries is
I
good.
think also, I mean, about the loneliness, you know, I think there's some people like solitude because
I do too.
you know, it allows creativity. And you know when people say you are weird, you're strange, listen, you're a genius. Just remember that. Geniuses were all strange. That's what people used to say. Oh, he was very strange, he never used to talk to anyone, and just that shows you have something, and that's your power. So don't forget that it's that part and that element that you need to carry on growing. But yes, don't sit there and drown in pain, because it's not going to be helpful for you in the long term if you don't speak to someone. So try and still communicate with people, still trying to connect with people. If you're struggling to express yourself, put it in words. or find that person. There's someone within your peers who you are comfortable with, and you can literally just flow like river. Like, you can flow your emotions like river without feeling like they have these judgments. And it's trying to understand who those people are. If all your friends are like that, man, you have the best friends in the world. Keep them.
Yeah. Agree. I guess that's it. I don't think I have anything else to add. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Do you want people to find you somewhere? Do you want to share something about yourself? So that people can look you up, or so, I don't know. What do you want?
I mean, I'm on
Instagram?
I'm on Instagram, but I'm on a private side. So
okay, so no one can actually do anything. They cannot really follow you.
No, they can follow me. But I think when you do the video, I can leave my Instagram if people are interested to follow. I mean, all I do is journal. I love traveling, and I love food, and I love music, especially the early 90s hip hop. That's my favorite sort of time. But yeah, so if you tick any of those three boxes and you're into creativity and you're a creative person, I'm sure we'll get on. And I get on with everyone, but I'm just saying that would definitely resonate with me.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's it. I hope you are well. Hope you go well. I hope you stay well. And then I will see you in the next video. So, deuces.